Winchester.
Hi, my name is Paige. I'm the decorator of the Housemaid.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Jones. I'm the production designer of the Housemaid.
And this is the Winchester house, and I'd like to take you on a little tour.
Would you like a grand tour so you can see what you're getting yourself into?
Sure.
When you get into the Winchester house, we wanted to create this atmosphere where essentially Millie, when she first enters the house, it's supposed to be welcoming, nice, warm colors in here, like somewhere that she was really going to want to work. In the beginning of the film, we have brighter colored flowers. They're white. It's supposed to be happier. Throughout the film, florals change to a darker tone. As we get into the dining room, this room specifically, we designed to be unsettling. You see that in a bit of the clashing between the art and the wallpaper. This 12-foot piece here by the artist Tosh Basco, Paul saw this piece and fell in love with it. The things that he really loves about it is the violence that you see in the brush strokes. The scale was something that Paul was particularly attracted to make the room feel like you're a bit claustrophobic. Kind of that grand scale of things extends to the chandelier that we have. This is the library. This room looked very different before we were in here. My set dressers took out 250 feet of books and then put in all of these beautiful leather-bound books to emphasize a very classic library. We got these chairs custom upholstered. Paul is a maximalist, and so he loves bright patterns. Paul actually wants to put them in his house after the film. Another thing that we did in here is I put a lot of horses within this room. Horses can be a symbol of power. It's power, but it's not necessarily a power that you have control over. The card motif, Millie thinks the cards that have been dealt to me are so amazing. I can't believe that I got lucky with this job. Little does she know what's actually in store for her. Directly on the opposite wing of the house, we have the sunroom, which is Nina's more public-facing room. It was very important for Paul to have a representation of Enzo's work in the Winchester family within the film, and we created that with the sunroom here. This is where Millie does her interview. Something that I love about this room is the red sofas. Red is a color that plays throughout the film, and so we really did want to bring it into this opening scene. On the side of the sofa that Nina would be sitting on, the designer, EJ, had wanted to put a more formal backdrop, while Millie's is a little bit more bare, so that Nina could perhaps feel more in power and control with her more elaborate setup. This piece here is by the photographer Daniel Arnold. I think Andrew views relationships in a very transactional nature. He's trying to see what Nina can do for him, not who she is as a person. The objectification of women is also represented in this piece. These are the family portraits of the Winchester family. We did a photo shoot of them and then the scenics painted on top to create this actual hero family portrait. He wants to portray the family as this sort of idealistic, very put together family, and that's their outward appearance. This room, the kitchen, this is the most seen room in the entire house. All of these cabinet faces are actually replacement cabinet doors. This is fake marble that our scenics painted. We installed these beautiful Nicholas O'Bead lights. Everything here, including the faucets, we replaced. Paul really wanted like a Nancy Meyers kitchen, but with a little bit of an unsettling undertone. The wallpaper that we picked here has kind of got this motif of clouds, but then you see that the clouds are being stabbed with these spears. Makes you think, is there something quite right with this house? And then we can proceed into the great room. We have strong pops of black, and that contrast with the very intense like whites and creams of Nina's focus. We added the pop of color with the Gauguin. There was a specific focus on bringing art into the film that plays on these themes of the male gaze, power, violence, oppression. We can also see in the Elias Mendel piece over here, this is a reinterpretation of a Renaissance image, and it's got a violent undertone as well. Now we're gonna go into the screening room. This is Andrew's private space. This house that we are shooting in did not have a room that was particularly suitable for a screening room. This was initially a golf room where people actually played hobby golf inside, and we ended up having to like take a lot of AstroTurf out, but I think it ended up really beautiful. EJ, the designer, specifically chose to have these curtained walls, and it really takes the word cave to a more literal level. This piece, as well as the other one that's in this room, are by the artist Christine Brachet. Marriage and the confined Science of Marriage is a big theme that happens throughout the film. Sydney Sweeney in particular really loved this piece. This is another piece by Christine. It occurred to me to add this mask element to the film, and it's actually one of my favorite things about the screening room now. It makes sense for him as a character to have masks as an art form because he is so used to masking his true nature. Clearly, we remember the staircase here. This is actually something that changed from what was in the book, keeping the way that Andrew actually dies as also being an architectural element of the house is a really interesting choice that Paul made. So we're gonna come up the spiral staircase. So this light fixture is not only a set decoration piece, but also a prop. I had to find a piece that would both work for the action that the characters had to do, as well as for the aesthetics of the film.
So we're gonna go into the primary suite of the Winchester house, which is built on our stage. This right here is an airlock to our house location in Madison. And then this is their primary suite. Really, this is sort of like the inner workings of Andrew Winchester, so it's a little darker, a little more sinister than some of our other spaces. We found this tapestry that we thought was evocative of our story, and we really loved the colors as well. Notes of red in it, the bedding with notes of red on it as well. The primary bathroom, in here we kind of did a variety of textures. We've got the terracotta floor, marble countertops. This is our tub where Cece is attempted to be drowned. And then in here we had this wallpaper, which is actually my inspiration for the whole set. This idea of like something that feels a little more sinister in nature. So this piece of art, it's a picture by Anna Mendita, who was an artist in the 1980s, and her murder was never solved. But it's alleged that her partner, Carl Andre, did kill her. And I thought that she would be an interesting artist to put into this space as somebody who was abused by her partner.
So this is our upper mezzanine level. It's the backdrop of some very important scenes in the film. So we really tried here to work in a foreboding gallery wall. Within a lot of the pieces of the art on this wall, I tried to kind of hint to what was about to come with the action of Andrew's death on the spiral staircase. So there's a couple pieces that I'd love to point out on this wall. One of them is right here. This is a piece by Elisabetta Serrani. This is the piece Timoclea killing Alexander's captain. And this one I particularly love because you're watching a woman push a man into a well. Another piece that I'd like to point out is this piece right here. This is by the artist Artemisia Gentileschi. The title of the piece is called Judith and Her Maidservant. So it's Judith and her maidservant working together to murder their oppressor. We have a lot of pieces on this wall by the artist Karen Werschall. She is a successful Baltimore, Maryland artist. This woman right here, for example, it's a different take on a very classic style of painting. This piece is another favorite of Paul's specifically. This is also by the artist Karen Werschall. You're seeing the woman in the background rising up from a position of power. So then we enter Cece's playroom. This is my favorite room in the house. The wallpaper is really beautiful, and it kind of lends to the air of this being sort of a fairy tale garden room for Cece. You're not seeing the classic standard plastic toys. You're just seeing very purposeful, ornate items. This is my favorite piece. I love this poodle lamp. I think it's so fun. EJ, the designer, had actually pulled a reference photo that had this handmade poodle chair, and I ended up actually finding the artist. She worked with us to paint certain elements, ended up making it a lampshade out of the exact same wallpaper. While it's very cute, it's also a little bit alarming. This is the dollhouse. The props department built this custom dollhouse by getting a fabricator to build it. I would send them elements of the set dressing that I was using, which they would then replicate within the house. Here in the primary bedroom, we have a miniature version of the tapestry. The formal living room, she actually hand painted the designs on the red sofas, and it's just so fun to see it in a tiny scale. There's a miniature version of the Daniel Arnold piece as well. In the dining room, we actually scaled down the wallpaper. She redid the pink curtains, And then the Tosh Basco piece, to make a miniature version of that really important art element and put it above the fireplace. The miniature version of Cece's room, it's fun because you can see the little giraffe. We've got the black sheep, and it's really nice to see like these key art elements in miniature. We can go into her bedroom. Something that Paul liked about the room was it kind of has an attic feel that alludes to what he does with Cece's mother by putting her in the attic. And so Cece is in her own version of the attic in this room.
This is our attic set. This is where Millie lives. Basically, our concept here was to create a space that feels inviting, but also could go dark at some point. So if you take a look around, it's very sweet and like kind of curated, but like a little more like down from the rest of the house. Vintage bed with our vintage bedspread. And then we have our fridge here and her little chest of drawers. And she's got a little lounge to sit on. So we're going to attic set number 2. This actually connects to our house location. At the house, we built this little alcove here, and this is where it becomes our set build.
It's perfect.
Okay, good.
Thank you for coming by the Winchester house.
I have a really good feeling about this, Millie. I do.
Me too.